All right, today we're going to look at a couple of examples for total surface area. So total is exactly what it means. It means everything. So the past couple lessons we've been talking about lateral surface area, which were just the faces. So total surface area is everything that you see. So the lateral faces and the base. Okay, so I'm going to write that to make sure we know. So if it's lateral surface area, that just means the faces. So the total is going to be the faces plus the base if it's a pyramid, or two bases if it's a prism. Okay, so that's why I have those parentheses like that. Okay, so for example, we can see right here we have all triangles. So if you see all triangles, that means that they're going to fold up because these are your faces right here. So we can say face 1, face 2, and face 3. And remember, a pyramid has a one base, and it's going to be in the middle. Okay? So this base, this triangle, is going to be the base. So the name of the figure is going to be a triangular pyramid. So it's not a triangular prism. We would know if it was a prism because there would be two triangles off to the side and all your other faces would be a prism. So for example, right here, these are bases, and there's two of them, and they're all rectangles. So in a prism, all your faces are rectangles. So if this was a base, this was a base, and these are faces, face 1, face 2, face 3, this would actually be a triangular prism. Okay, so something to think about. This is the difference between them. If all the other shapes are around that shape in the middle, it's going to be a pyramid. If the rectangles are all next to each other side by side and you have two shapes off to the side, that's going to be a prism. So because these bases are triangles, this is a triangular prism. So something to think about. In a pyramid, your base is always in the middle. In a prism, your bases are always off to the side. Okay, so we're going to solve this first one. So again, if we want total surface area, that means everything. We want to find the lateral surface area like we've been doing in the previous lessons, but we're going to also add the area of the base or bases and add it all together. Okay, so total surface area means everything. So right here, I'm going to say the base. Well, because this base is a triangle, we're going to use the formula 1/2 base times height, or you can say base times height divided by 2. Okay, so I'm going to work these first two out with you. So the base of this triangle right here is 4 4/10, and they have this arrow pointing right here of 3.8, so that's my height because my base and height always form a right angle. So just kind of narrow down, you're just looking at that one triangle. So the base is 4 4/10 centimeters times the height of 3 8/10, and we can multiply that all by 1/2 or just say divide by 2. Okay. Now again, if this were a class test or the state test, we would not be using a calculator, but I'm just going to show you just for time purposes what we're looking at. So we're looking for the process. So again, you're going to have to remember how to multiply decimals without a calculator, but we're just going to use that for time purposes on these videos. So 4 4/10 times 3 8/10 base times height is 16 72/100. And if I multiply that, like if I did base times height like that, 1/2 times 4.4 times 3.8 multiplied by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. So I'm going to take 16 72/100, divide by 2, and I get 8 36/100, and my units were centimeters, so it's centimeters squared. That's only the area of the base. So I'm not there yet. I need to find the area of the faces. So I'm going to say face 1. So if we look and we're just looking at face 1, right here is the base. And if they don't give me another number right here, and if I were to fold that up and fold this up and fold that up, these would all meet at that vertex. So we're going to say that the base is also 4.4. So area equals base times height divided by 2. So 4 4/10, but the height right there So if you were to fold this triangle up with this triangle up, these heights are the same. So we're not going to use 3.8 because that's the height of the triangle in the middle, where this triangle is the same as that. Okay, so if we fold those up, so we need to make sure we're using the correct number. So 4.4 times 5.3 divide by 2. Again, multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. So we're going to say 4 and 4/10 times 5 and 3/10 gives you a product of 23 and 32/100. But we need to multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2, and we get 11 and 66/100 in that centimeter square. So I know that the area of this one is 11.66. Okay? Well, if you stop and think about it, this base of this triangle on face 3 and this base on triangle face 2, if their base and height are the same, and we multiply those and divide by 2, that means you're going to get 11 and 66/100 for each one of these. Okay? So here's something that we can stop and think about it. We saw this area was 8 and 36/100. If this were lateral surface area, that means we would not include the base, so we would have these 3 faces and add them up. But because it's total surface area, we're going to take our lateral and we're going to add the area of the base too. That means everything that you see. Total means everything. Okay? So that means we have our 3 faces, 11 and 66/100. So those were the 3 faces that were congruent. And then we're also going to add that base, the area of the base, and see what we get. So 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4 is 24. 6 times 3 is 18, 19, 20, plus 3 is 23. So bring down my decimal when I add and subtract. I'm going to carry my 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. So my total surface area with the base and the faces is 43 and 34/100 squared centimeters. Now, what I'm going to be telling you guys, because I've told you a couple times, watch out for those trick answers. If they ask about total surface areas, one of the trick answers would probably just be the lateral surface area. So if you did 11 and 66/100 times those 3 faces, I bet that would be a trick answer. That does represent something. That represents your lateral surface area. Okay, but if it says total, that means the base or bases and the faces. Another way they might trick you is over here. If you did 4 and 4/10 times 3 and 8/10 and you thought that this was just 16 and 72/100 for that base, and then over here if you forgot to divide by 2, so you thought each of the faces was 23.32, if you added 23.32 plus 23.32 plus 23.32 and 16.72, that would be another trick answer. So again, I talk about those things in these videos just to kind of help prepare you for what you might see. Okay, so let's look at this one. Well, this second one kind of looks like this one we looked over here, so let's think about it. If you see 2 triangles and 3 rectangles, whatever you see the least of are going to be the bases. And the bases are always off to the side like that, or they're in the middle. Well, they're off to the side if all the other shapes are rectangles. It's in the middle if all the shapes around it are triangles. So this is a pyramid, and this one is a prism. Because it has 2 bases, a prism has 2 bases, a pyramid has 1 base, and we also know this is a prism because all the other faces are rectangles. So you name the prism depending on what the bases are. So those 2 bases are triangles, so this is a triangular prism. And because a triangle has 3 sides, that means it's going to have 3 faces. Okay? Just kind of get some clean paper here for us. So we need to find the total surface area. Okay? So let's look at the area of the bases. So this base is a triangle, so the base of the triangle. I know that sounds funny that you're saying, well, you're saying base as in like what that is, and then base of the triangle, so just kind of thinking about it different. So the base is a triangle, so we're going to use the area formula for a triangle. Base times height divided by 2. Your base of your triangle, right there, again, if you need to cover it up to see how you can look at that. Your base of your triangle is 5, and your height right here, forming that right angle, is 4 3/10. So 5 times 4 3/10 divided by 2. So when we look at that, 5 times 4 3/10 is 21 5/10. Divide by 2, we're going to get 10 75/100. Okay, so base times height divided by 2. But if you stop and think about it, this is 10 75/100 for your area. Well, if this is 5 feet right here, in this rectangle, parallel sides are opposite and congruent. So if this is 5 feet, this is 5 feet. And when we fold those triangles up right here, and then we fold these rectangles around it, that would be my triangular prism. If you stop and think about it, that means those triangles are congruent. So instead of using the formula again, we just already know that that's the same amount. Okay? All right, let's look at face 1 right here. So face 1. Well, this is a rectangle. So we're going to use the area formula for a rectangle. And the area formula for a rectangle is base times height, or length times width. So the base, or the length, is 5. The height, or the width, is 3. Or technically you could say this is the length and this is the width. But either way, 5 times 3 or 3 times 5, you're going to get the same product as 15. Okay? So I know that this one is 15. I just like to circle them so it helps me say, okay, this is the area of this shape, this is the area of this shape, this is the area of this shape. Okay, so let's look. If this is also 5, and your height right here, parallel and congruent, it's also 5 times 3, you know that that's going to be 15. And this right here is also going to be 15, because this base right here is 5. Okay? Another thing to note, see how this says 5 right here? If I were to fold it up, that would be that measurement here. So sometimes they put the number over here, but not on this side. So let's say that they had 5 feet right here and there was no number there. Well, just visualizing folding this up, this would match with that side. So that's another way we can think about it. So all of these faces ended up being the same, because same area, because their base all had a base of 5 and their height was 3. Okay? So if you see a triangular pyramid, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers you're adding up, because you had 3 faces and the base. That's why we added 4 numbers over here. Whereas on this one, it's a triangular prism, so you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes, because 2 bases and 3 faces. So I have 15 plus 15 plus 15. If I added just those up, that represents my lateral surface area, but total means the faces and the base, or bases. And a prism has 2 bases, so I'm going to say 10 75/100 plus 10 75/100. Again, that makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. So total surface area is the lateral surface area plus the base, or bases. Then we're going to do our decimal and zeros for placeholder, because when we add and subtract decimals, they line up our place value. So 0, 5 plus 5 is 10, 1, 7 plus 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Go ahead and bring down that decimal. And then 5, 10, 15 plus 1 is 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my total surface area is 66 50/100 Or you can say 66 and 5/10 squared feet. Those mean the same thing. Okay, a trick answer on this is if you would have just added the faces. 15 plus 15 plus 15 is 45. So if this were multiple choice, I would predict 45 to be a trick answer. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing today. So again, you need to be reading very carefully. If they ask you for total surface area, that means the area of all the shapes that you see. If they only ask for lateral, that just means the faces. So read very carefully so you don't fall for those trick answers. And as always, let us know if you need help.